Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a look at a book you've probably heard of, maybe even read, George Orwell's Animal Farm. It's an absolute classic. But what's really fascinating is the story behind the story. I mean, how this book even got published in the first place tells you just as much as the fairy tale itself. So let's start with a real head-scratcher. Orwell finishes writing Animal Farm right in the middle of World War II. Now, you'd think, with a paper shortage and all, publishers would be desperate for content, right? They could sell pretty much anything they printed. And yet, this book, what we now know is a masterpiece, gets rejected, not once, but 4 times. Why? Well, figuring that out, that's the key to understanding the entire point Orwell was trying to make.
You see, the struggle to get this book published was a real battle. And it shines a spotlight on this idea Orwell was obsessed with, something he called voluntary censorship. He even wrote a whole preface about it called The Freedom of the Press. And you won't believe this, that preface also got suppressed. The irony, right?
So, get this. One publisher actually said yes at first. They were all set to go, but then they got nervous. They had a little chat with someone at the Ministry of Information, a government official, and suddenly got cold feet. The rejection letter they sent Orwell is, well, it's just a perfect snapshot of the exact political climate he was railing against. And here's what they said. They told him the story would be less offensive if the rulers weren't pigs. Can you believe it? They were worried it would give offense to many people. Now let's be clear, this wasn't about the book being badly written. Not at all. It was pure politics. The British government was terrified of offending their ally at the time, the Soviet Union, and portraying the Soviet leaders as power-hungry pigs, that was just a step too far.
For Orwell, this was a massive red flag. It was a symptom of something he called the prevailing orthodoxy. Basically, a set of ideas that all the right-thinking people are just supposed to accept, no questions asked. And back then, in Britain, that orthodoxy was this totally uncritical, almost blind admiration for Soviet Russia. It was the cool thing to think, especially among intellectuals.
And this led him to a really important conclusion. The biggest enemy a writer has isn't some government censor stamping banned on their work. No, it's what he called intellectual cowardice. It's people censoring themselves. It's when we all know certain facts are inconvenient, but we choose to just not talk about them because we don't want to rock the boat or go against what's popular.
So, where did all this passion come from? I mean, this wasn't just some abstract idea for Orwell. His fierce conviction, his need to speak truth to power, it was forged in a very real, very dangerous place, the Spanish Civil War.
Orwell's life was anything but ordinary. He was born in India, part of the British Empire. Then he becomes an imperial police officer in Burma, which, funnily enough, made him hate imperialism. He quits that to become a writer, lives in poverty, and that experience turns him into a socialist. But the real turning point, the thing that gave him his lifelong mission, was fighting in Spain.
Because in Spain, he saw something that shook him to his core. He was fighting with one group of socialists, who were then attacked and smeared by another group, the communists, who were backed by the Soviet Union. He saw propaganda and outright lies used as weapons. And the craziest part? When he got back home to England, he saw educated, enlightened people in a democracy believing those exact same lies, hook, line, and sinker. It just blew his mind.
And this experience gave him a new target, what he called the Soviet myth. This was the popular idea in the West, that Stalin's Russia was some kind of socialist utopia. For Orwell, who was a socialist himself, this was a disaster. He felt this myth was poisoning the very idea of socialism, so he decided he had to do something. He had to write a story so simple, so clear, that anyone could understand the truth.
And that brings us to the revolution on the farm. This was his brilliant idea. He took all the huge, complicated events of the Russian Revolution and boiled them down into an allegory, a simple fairy story about animals on a farm where ideals are ultimately betrayed.
So, you probably know how it starts. It's this beautiful, utopian vision. An old pig named Old Major has a dream of a world without humans, a world where all animals are equal. They rise up, they kick out their cruel farmer, and they establish a new society based on 7 commandments. An unalterable law for their new republic of the animals.
But things start to go wrong. Pretty quickly, actually. The pigs, who are the cleverest animals, start taking over. And to make their power grab seem legitimate, they start tweaking those unalterable laws. Just a little word here, a little word there. No animal shall sleep in a bed becomes no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. no animal shall kill any other animal becomes no animal shall kill any other animal without cause. And the other animals, well, their memories aren't so great, so they just figure, oh, I must have remembered it wrong.
And this keeps happening. This slow, sneaky twisting of words, and history goes on until one day the animals wake up and all 7 of the original commandments are just gone, wiped clean off the barn wall. And in their place, there's just one single, new and truly chilling rule. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. I mean, what a sentence. It's brilliant in a terrifying way. Logically, it makes no sense at all. But politically, it's devastating. It's the perfect piece of propaganda that justifies a brand new tyranny using the language of the old idealistic revolution.
And so, the story ends. That early dream of a golden future time where animals would be free, it dies with this one final haunting image. The other animals peek through the farmhouse window, and what do they see? They see the pigs, their leaders, playing cards and drinking with the human farmers. And they can't tell the difference anymore. They look from pig to man and from man to pig, and they're exactly the same. The liberators have become the tyrants.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you think Animal Farm is just about Russia, you're kind of missing the point, at least Orwell's most important point. Because his real target, the thing that made all those publishers so uncomfortable, wasn't Stalin. It was aimed much, much closer to home. He was terrified of what he called the gramophone mind. It's such a great phrase. Think about it. A gramophone just plays whatever record you put on it. It doesn't think, it doesn't question, it just repeats. And Orwell saw people, especially smart, educated people, doing the exact same thing, just repeating the popular opinions of the day without ever stopping to think for themselves.
And he put it so perfectly here. The enemy is the gramophone mind, whether or not one agrees with the record that is being played at the moment. You see, for him, it didn't matter if you were left-wing or right-wing. The real danger wasn't being wrong. The real danger was not thinking for yourself at all. The enemy is just blindly accepting any party line, period. Which brings us full circle, right back to his struggle to get the book published in the first place. Because out of that fight comes this powerful, timeless message about what liberty, what real intellectual freedom is all about.
And here it is, maybe his most famous quote: "If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear." That's it. That's the whole game. Freedom of speech isn't there to protect safe, popular ideas that everybody already agrees with. It's there specifically to protect the uncomfortable ideas, the unpopular truths, the things that challenge what everyone else takes for granted.
So in the end, Orwell's story leaves us with a pretty big question. He spent his life fighting the unquestioned beliefs of his time, the orthodoxies of the 1940s. So we have to ask ourselves, what are ours? What are the inconvenient facts today? What are the things that it's just not done to say? The ideas that our own orthodoxies tempt us to quietly sweep under the rug.